Yeah, I know you've been fighting battles that you never speak on. Carrying weight on your shoulders, but you still keep going. Every scar on your heart got a story behind it. But you walk through the fire like you already climbed it. People don't see the nights you cried, the days you broke, but you still stood tall even when you lost hope. You stronger than the pain they tried to take your shine. You a diamond in the dirt, still destined to rise. You don't even know your power, but I see it.
So I'm Gabby, and I wanted to take time to put this video out because for a long time I believed my story was something that I needed to hide. I didn't think it was anything of importance. Um, I thought if people knew everything I've been through, they would see me differently, right? Um, but I've learned. Oh, excuse me. I've learned that scars don't define us. They remind us of what we survived. Um, Today I'm choosing honesty over fear. I'm inviting you into my life. The beautiful moments, the painful ones, the lessons, the failures, the victories, and everything in between. Everyone has a story. Some stories are told through smiles while others are hidden behind them. If you met me today, you might see someone who loves deeply, cares for others, and continues to move forward no matter what life brings. But what you wouldn't see are the moments that nearly broke me, the experiences that shaped me, and the challenges that challenged me and ultimately transformed me. This isn't a story about perfection. It's about survival. It's about healing, forgiveness, and discovering who I was always meant to be. I'm not sharing my life because I have all the answers. I'm sharing it because maybe something I've lived through will help someone else believe they can make it through also. One day, my children may watch this. Maybe my grandchildren will too. When that day comes, I don't want them to know only what I accomplished. I want them to know what I survived. Um, I want them to understand that strength isn't pretending everything is okay. Strength is choosing love after heartbreak. Um, Choosing hope after disappointment. Choosing to keep going when life gives you every reason to stop. The story, I hope, lives long after I do. Who is Gabrielle today? I don't know if I mentioned my name in the beginning, but hey, I'm Gabby. And what would people never guess you've been through? Um, so people would never guess that I have been homeless in my past. Um, that I did not complete. I'm sorry. The only grade I have completed in the school system and graduated from is the eighth grade. I did not complete ninth grade. I dropped out of ninth grade. Um, People probably wouldn't believe that I gotten over an addiction. Nothing heavy, but an addiction is an addiction, right? Your challenge is your challenge. My addiction was cigarettes, right? So I started smoking bud when I was 11, and I started smoking cigarettes when I was about maybe 15. And so far in December, it'll be 3 years since I have quit smoking cigarettes. Okay. Being in a abusive relationship, right? So those are things that people will probably never guess that I've been through. Misconceptions that people think of me is that I've had an easy life and that I'm very naive and that I'm a bitch. You know, I have my moments, but overall, I'm not. So, yeah. Um, what was my childhood like, and what experiences shaped um, the little girl that I once was? Well, my I grew up in a two-bedroom apartment in Astoria with my mom. My dad was back and forth, brothers, and I have two sisters. Right, so growing up was very crowded, but it was fun. Um, Everyone who saw me and my family together, they loved the bond that we have, and of course, we had moments where we fight, you know. But overall, we were each other's best friend. Um, I I didn't know much of anyone outside of my household, like other family members. The closest family that I had are my siblings. Um, I do have some cousins that my mom's side, you know, I'm cool with my cousins. There's still a little distance there, but I know them a lot better than I know, or I knew them a lot better than I knew my father's side. It's been they're like distant family, so you know, here and there, growing up, maybe we'll meet up um, for like some family events, or my dad went to visit his mom when they lived in Flushing, Queens. Um, but overall, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know my father's side of the family. I don't know much about anyone except for my siblings. So yeah, we were all we had growing up. So like I said, it wasn't easy. My dad was back and forth, so you know, of course, a lot of tension between my parents. So there was arguing and stuff. So yeah. So I am the oldest female of my siblings. Okay, I do have an older brother. The rest of them are all younger than me, and being an older female had a lot of responsibility on me, especially with my mom being a single mom at times, um, which is part of the reason why I left high school, why I dropped out of high school. I just didn't, when it came to school, I'll get into that a little later, but I didn't understand it, I didn't grasp it, and I just felt like it wasn't getting me anywhere. So I did leave, I did drop out, and I stayed home and I find little hustles to get money just to help support my family along with my mom. But yeah, I had a lot of responsibilities being the oldest. So, you know, I had to, I don't want to say grow up fast, but a lot of kids my age didn't have so much responsibilities, you know, that I had. So, yeah, that's part of the reason why I am who I am now, because I had so many responsibilities and helping to look after my siblings and blah blah blah, all that extra stuff, right? So, yeah. So the next question is, how did my experience at school and my childhood friendships influence the way um, that I saw myself in the world? Well, first off, I did not have any friends in school. I was always bullied. I was always bullied. I probably had a couple people that I were cool with, but no one that I would call my friend, right? Um, Let me see. Um, yeah, so school was not my safe place. It was not a safe place for me at all, but it was something that I had to do. My mother will always say that we had to go to school because it was part of the law for us to go to school. So I just went there to be a seat warmer. I was a law abiding citizen. Let's put it like that. But Give me one second. But I didn't understand much when it came to school and what they were teaching. It was literally, I felt like I was in one of the episodes of Charlie Brown. That is a real thing with that teacher making that womp womp sound. That's so true. I don't understand shit. I did have a couple teachers who liked me and wanted me to succeed, and it's just, I guess they liked me because I was different. I don't know, but it's just I wasn't grasping the information. Right? I did try hard, and when I would sit there with one-on-one sessions with my teachers, when it was my turn to go, I kind of forgot what I learned. So, yeah, school was a little challenge for me. Um, I just felt that I was not one of the smart students there. Um, yeah. So, um, I got teased a lot. I got teased for the clothes that I wore, which to me were like regular ass clothes, but I had a lot of the popular girls there, and they had the latest sneakers and stuff like that. So they were dressed for the year. They was always up to date on certain things. Um, I was not. Okay. Um, I remember one day before I went to school, because I always got teased when it came to my clothes. I wanted to make sure that that everything was fresh, right? So one morning I don't know why I did it in the morning. One morning before I left for school, I washed my t-shirt out with bleach because I wanted it to be white, right? I'm like, today's gonna be a good day. I'm not gonna be teased today, so it's gonna be white. And when I went to school, I did blow dry it with the blow dryer. But when I went to school, the students there were saying they smelled bleach and stuff like that. And of course, they came to me smelling me, and they was like, "Okay, yeah, it's her." So that was something else that was on the list, that I smelled like bleach. Um, but it was a lot. It was a lot between my weight. Um, it was a lot. I was told that I wasn't black. I had mira hair, so that's another thing I got teased for having good hair. Um, I remember. Um, I remember one day after school, I was walking home, and I just started to feel like a little like pebbles being thrown at me. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's just the way I'm walking or whatever the case is. Like maybe pebbles are just, maybe I'm kicking it and I'm not noticing it. But then I realized that they were getting bigger. So I realized, oh, these are rocks being thrown at me. So I didn't run or anything. Um, these are things that I am trying to remember, but from school on, it kind of made me numb to the certain treatment that I went through, right? So I didn't run home after being thrown, after rocks had been thrown at me. I walked. I was like, it is what it is. Like, they're gonna keep doing it, and if I run, it might get bigger. So I don't wanna add fuel to the fire. Yeah, I'm not sure where I left off at, but yeah, that was the treatment I got growing up. Growing up, I was very quiet because, like I said, I kind of got numb to certain treatments. Um, Part of that being numb to certain treatments was, me being violated at the age of, I believe I was 8. I would say between 7, but no older than 9, right? Yeah, so I guess after that treatment, and that's the earliest one I can remember. Um, I kind of got numb to the treatment. To me, it was kind of normal, especially when I going to school, where it didn't really bother me. It hurt at times, to be honest, but it was something that I felt was just a part of life. So, um, I remember there was one time that I was walking to the store, and out of nowhere, this boy who's on the block, he didn't like me for some reason. Um, he spit a lungie on me. Okay, if anyone knows what a lungie is, it's fucking mucus. He snorted up and spit it on me, and it hit my leg. I was wearing jeans that hit my leg, and I just look like, wow, I just got spit on. That was the emotion I had. I was like, wow, this dude just spit on me. But yeah, my little sister was kind of like the mouth for me when she saw like the mistreatment. She's 4 years younger than me, but um, she was definitely like the action, right? So she ended up running into him a few days later, and she she ran into the store where he was at and was like, "Hey, remember what you did to my sister?" And she spit back at him. So I was like, when she told me that, I'm like, listen, I appreciate it, but I don't want you getting any shit because people don't like me, for whatever reason. This is just what I was used to. I was known as the big sister, like the big as in size, or the fat sister. No one gave me a name. It wasn't Gab, it wasn't that. It was the bigger one. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, life really had it out for me. I learned was the mistreatment in school and through everyone else. It just made me not want to contribute to that kind of energy. I didn't want to be those people. I was like, if I had control, I would make people feel comfortable, not tease people. So a lot of what I went through, it hit me like I would never do that to people. It didn't make me upset. It didn't make me mean towards people. It just everything that happened to me made me feel like this is what I would not want people to feel or to go through. Okay. The biggest challenges that I had to go through. Biggest challenges and traumas that I had to overcome. Um, Let me see. Well, like I said, from what I can remember, so I'm probably gonna like hopscotch because I'm going off my memory. Um, I remember, I remember. Um, okay, it was one day when I was home and we had no groceries. Right, this is when I was living in Queens. We had no groceries, and I didn't have a job. I was too young to have a job at that time. Um, but my mom was trying to figure out a way. This is before she started to, volunteer um, at certain, how do you call it? I guess like thrift stores. Before she would volunteer there in exchange for either it was money or it was groceries, right? So that's what she would do. This is before that. I remember one year she gave me a beautiful, 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 beautiful necklace. It was a cross, and it was a blue. It was it was like white encrusted, and the cross itself was like blue, like blue crystals or whatever. And on the like around, let me see, you see my unk, around the top part of the cross was a heart. So it's like a heart that was attached to it. It was a beautiful cross. Um, she had given me that, um, and I remember walking into my staircase, and I sat there and I was like, how am I gonna get money? I learned how to speak to myself because I had no one else to talk to. I was too scared to talk to anyone outside of my household because again, I got bullied, I got teased, I was called dumb. Um, when I would talk to people, people would, say that I talked too much or they didn't care. So that kind of what would shape me into numbing myself into being so quiet growing up throughout the years, right? Because I was like, no one wants to hear me. So that's what it is. Um, so I remember walking into my staircase and I'm like, what am I gonna do to get money? What am I gonna do? Um, it hit me where it was like, just go sell yourself, go prostitute yourself, go do that. Um, and I'm in this staircase and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. And then I'm like, nah, I have to do it. My family has to eat. And I'm really going back and forth with myself. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. Because I'm from Astoria, so right there, 21st Street, Queensbridge, Queens Plaza, that's where all the strips was at, right? So I was like, it probably wouldn't be nothing if I was just stand outside, but it was everything inside me that it was like, no, you're not gonna do that. Nothing wrong to anyone who has made those decisions, but for me, it was two things. It was number one, I didn't feel I was attractive enough to even do that, right? I had this idea where I wanted to be a pole dancer. Let's just say that, because I'm not sure where I'm going to post this video. So I said I wanted to be a pole dancer, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to go for that because I'm not going to get hired. I'm not in shape to be that. I'm not going to get any money. So when it came to thinking that thought about hitting Queens Plaza, I'm like, no one's going to want you. Like, why would you even try to do that? So I'm like, damn, no one's going to want me. So I can't make money there, and I need more than $5. So another thing was like, you can find another way. You don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to scoop that low. You know what I mean? Like I said, nothing towards anyone who has done that. This is my story and this is my thoughts. So I didn't do it. Right? I didn't do it. So I'm just like, listen, we just but I believe we ended up getting help that night when it came to food. That's one thing I can say. Whenever we was low on groceries or low on anything, always on time, we had a meal. We always had a meal. And this is what pushed me stronger to my faith. Because it wasn't one time we were ever left stray. Um, so I definitely I definitely slowly started to recognize who um who God was. But hold on. So yeah, with that being said, that was like a thought that was in my head at that time. I think I was like 13 or some shit, to be honest. But later, years later, I ended up, um, like I said, I would do little side gigs. I was posting on Craigslist to do pet sitting. I was doing childcare. At this time, I was actually going to people's houses watching their kids. Nowadays, you can't do that shit, but I had many clients, right? And I got paid good money, and I always came home with money. My family, my siblings were so happy. So, and it was less stress on my mom to know there was someone else bringing something in the house. Um. So yeah. So this particular time, I have found a gig at I have found a gig at a barbershop, right? Um. Yeah, it was at a barbershop in Jamaica, Queens, and the shop owner, I got weird vibes from, um, but whatever. He wanted to see what I was able to do, so that was the time a client came in. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, to be honest, but like I said, I just had to make some money. So I it was nothing like doing hair on the block, right? I would do people's hair on the block, and I would have like, if I didn't have comb or a brush, they knew me for having either a pen, or I would take a piece of a twig, sharpen that up so give it a nice point, and then I was making parts and shit like that. So um yeah, it wasn't the same. I had this lady come in, and she was a Caucasian lady, and she sat down, and I would that was the time I had to learn how to hold the blow dryer and the brush at the same time. So she was patient with me. Her hair was going everywhere. She was really patient with me. So I did give her a nice clean, and I blew her hair out, whatever. She gave me a nice tip. So that was cool. That was sweet. But he hired me, and I believe I was there for maybe 2 weeks. And again, this was a time where, I didn't have any money. I didn't get paid yet. I think my siblings called me asking me like, "What are we gonna have for dinner?" And I wasn't sure. So I asked him. I was like, "Listen, is it possible that I could get an advancement um, from my pay, or whatever the case is?" And I haven't spoke about this, and I don't think I never spoke about this, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, it's part of my healing, right? So, he said, yeah, um, but he would need something from me. So, you put two and two together, whatever. It was literally like 3 minutes, if that. And this this was part of like many of my mental breakdowns. Like I I I did what I did, right? Um, and he told me no, he wasn't giving me anything. Um, he wasn't giving me nothing. Um, he went into his office and he had lunch at his office desk, and he said that he would toss the food at me. Like he was like, "This is what you're worth. You can have that." And I was like, "Wow." So I walked out of there and I was like, that's just that. I went home that night and I cried my ass off in the shower. I cried. I was like, I'm never gonna speak a word of this because I went against myself and did something like that. You know what I mean? Just to be belittled and to be disrespected and to feel just to be disgusted. And I'm like, again, I could never do that to anyone. Number one, I would never tell anyone to compromise themselves that way. And just to disrespect on top of it was disgusting. So again, I thought that was my fault. I'm like, listen, you did it to yourself. A lot of things I just owned up to, I took accountability to. Whether it was right or wrong on the person's side, I'm like, listen, I called something for that to happen. So this is my mindset then, okay? When I'm speaking, I'm talking about the mindset I had then. Um, but yeah, that was something that was really hard for me. Um, but I did get over that. Um, yeah. So how did the early relationship, how did the early experiences shape my relationships that I chose later in life? I got used to being used. I just thought it was when you get conditioned to believe that you're not worthy of anything. Anything you get into, you're going to continue to play that part, right? So when it came to my relationships, um, I played the part, right? I wanted to be accepted and to not be hurt. That I kind of didn't want to go against anyone or make anyone be upset. And that's another reason why I didn't stand up for myself when it came to certain things because I didn't want anyone to be upset with me, right? Because I spent too many years already having everyone against me. So it's like, damn, if someone wants to be in my company, I'm just going to accept it. And maybe I always felt maybe if I allowed someone in my company and I did what they asked of me to do, that they would eventually want to get to know me and know that I am a good person and all that extra shit, right? Then I worked out that way. But my experiences in my childhood definitely shaped my relationship. So I remember one day, I remember one day, hold on. Okay. I remember one day, I wrote a letter, right? And I always wrote letters to myself and I always wrote letters to just the spirit world, right? I didn't know who God was at the time, but I kept hearing about God and me writing letters to God, expressing how I feel and what I wanted back in my life made me feel good. So during this time, I wrote a letter to the universe, and this is before I really knew what the universe was, right? But I felt to do something, so I did it. So I wrote this letter, and this letter was describing my perfect guy, okay, and how my guy would treat me, and how my guy would dress and stuff like that. And I took this letter and I ripped it up, and I went to my window and I threw it out my window. And I did it at night because I love the nighttime. I did it at night. I love the night. I love the moonlight. So I threw it, and in my mind, me throwing it was a way for it to be blown off to the universe because the wind blew. So I was like, okay, the universe got my message. Not long after that, I met, um, I met my kids, my old girl's father, right? So I only had like really, I would say serious, even though they were bullshit. I really only had two serious relationships, and both of those relationships have had kids, right? So my older girl's dad, I met him. He came into my life. We met online. He was telling me, how he was a chef and he had all this good savings. Something about like a treasure box. I don't fucking know what he was talking about. But I was like, okay, whatever. He was funny. He was cute. He was tall. He was literally everything I wrote in the damn letter. So I'm like, okay, whatever, cool. We ended up meeting. And when he met me, at first he kind of like walked past me. And I'm looking like, is that him? And then he walks past again. He's like staking me out, some shit like that. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Whatever. But then I realized it was him because I've lived in Queens majority of my life. I'm kind of familiar with the faces. I'm kind of familiar of new energy. So I kind of knew that was him. So yeah, he ended up coming to me and we were laughing, chilling, whatever the case is. He met my siblings. He bought them like these big ass candy bars or whatever the case is. So it was cool. Um, not too long of us being together. Did the abuse start? Um, one day he was staying with me at my mom's house, and one day he came in and he um was drunk and he just smacked the shit out of me like right across the face. My little sister, we shared the same room. She was pretending to be asleep, but she heard it, right? And I forgot what he said to me after, but then he ended up apologizing, and I believed it because I'm like, he never hit me before. He's never done this. He's a really sweet guy, so maybe he is sorry. Maybe it is just the alcohol, whatever. After that, that first hit became many hits. He ended up robbing me. Um, I would go into supermarkets in my area and I would have to like steal Pampers and steal milk for my daughters because I had two of them and they both ran Pampers. They were like one was like my 1 year old, and then I had my youngest daughter. She was like a few months, so they both were in Pampers. I was doing both of them, and yeah, so I would have to steal from the supermarkets to make sure that we had lunch and stuff. And this was around the time that I had when I started stealing from the supermarkets, I was already out of my mother's house. So my mom didn't like him. Okay, she wanted him out of the house, and he expressed to me that he had nowhere to go, whatever, whatever. So I decided, okay, let's just go into the shelter. We'll do it together. Before I said we'll do it together, I I took him to the men's shelter. He wasn't comfortable with that. He said he didn't want to be there. So I'm like, you know what? Forget it. We're just going to the shelter together because I cared for him and I didn't want him to do it on his own. And I'm the kind of person where if we show up together, we're leaving together. I'm the kind of person where if I'm able to stand with you in the storm, we're gonna do it together. You know what I mean? So um, I expressed to my mom that I was gonna leave with him to the shelter. She cried, of course. She didn't want me to, but she said, if that's your decision, then it is what it is. Um, so we ended up leaving, going to the shelter together. Again, he was not comfortable being in the shelter. I'm like, this is the steps that we decided to make, so we're gonna man it out. He was a bitch, you know, but I definitely manned it out. But it was a lot going through that shelter with him, with the fighting and you know Him jeopardizing our placement, especially after we had kids, him jeopardizing our kids' placement. Like I said, he would rob me so he would go hang out with his friends and buy them drinks and, so they can have a good time, whatever. And I was figuring it out. And I started taking from the supermarkets. Um, Let me see. There was one time when it came to him, well, a few times, not one time, but he's done a lot of grimy things to me throughout our relationship. Most of it was like he would go after my kids. He would just like want to yell and scream, whatever the case is, especially while they're sleeping. He would like go to their ear and like yell in their ear and shit like that. And that's if I said no, I'm not giving you money for this. So I'm like, okay, just take it. Don't do that to my babies. Um, I remember when I was giving birth to my youngest daughter, he called me at the hospital after I gave birth and asked me if I could call the Connect, right? The BUD Connect. And I'm like, no, I just gave birth. Um, so he didn't like that, and he would call me all types of low down, anything you could think of. This is what he was saying to me over the phone. When I didn't answer my room phone, he would call the nurses station, and they would keep coming from and saying, "Listen, he's calling back. He's calling back." It was just embarrassing all the way around. Now, what I wanted to mention here was when it came to my oldest daughter's birth, he was not present. Um, and when it was time for me to be discharged with her, I had a social worker at the hospital. This was Brookdale Hospital, and she did not want me to leave with my daughter. She knew I was in a shelter. She said it wasn't okay. She went into her office while I waited outside her office with my daughter. I had my daughter with me in her carrier, and she made a couple of phone calls. Now I'm not sure who she was calling to get any kind of okay, but regardless, I was not leaving without my baby, and I made that very clear to her. So I guess whoever she spoke to on the phone gave her the okay to let me go, and she was asking me if I had a ride to get home because that would basically be the only way that I could leave the hospital with my daughter. I told her yes, my ride was waiting downstairs. I went downstairs and it was pouring rain, but I lived like maybe 3 blocks away from the hospital. I was on Saratoga Avenue at this time. And yeah, if I remember correctly, it was Saratoga Avenue. It's not too far from Brookdale Hospital. And it was a shelter there. And it was a maternity shelter, so I was there until I gave birth, and once I gave birth, they was going to move me somewhere else. So anyway, I went downstairs to the lobby. I saw it was pouring rain. I went outside as if I was about to get into a ride, but really, I went around the corner and I found a plastic bag. It was a plastic garbage bag, and I put it over my daughter's carrier. And I would say I ran home, but that would be a lie because I did not run. I was on the heavy set side. So I sped my ass off. I sped, walked home. And I made sure to take a peek at her before arriving to my building. She was fine sleeping. I went upstairs. I took the bag up before entering the building, obviously, and my baby was fine. So I wanted to add that little part in to this story. Also, while I was giving birth, he brought a girl he was cheating on me with to the area where my family was. My family's calling me like, "Yo, he's over here with some girl, and you're in the hospital." And da da. So okay, that was another embarrassing moment. It was just a lot of embarrassing moments when it came to him. He didn't care. Okay, he did not care. Um, what was putting the icing on the cake was when somehow I had emergency ACS show up to my room while I was in the shelter, and they said they got a call, and I'm like, I'm never ever ever, you know, I just want to clarify the shelters. I was in a couple shelter, I believe. I'm not too sure exactly what street this was on. I remember the spot, but I don't remember the street for some reason. But I lived in Harlem, and it was across the street from the Salvation Army. From the couple shelter, once I got pregnant with my daughter, I got moved to Brooklyn to go to a, it was like a shelter for pregnant women for like before they gave birth. So I was there with him. Um, and then I gave birth to her in Brookdale. And then after giving birth to her, I got moved to another spot in Brooklyn. This was on Livonia Avenue. Um, Livonia Avenue is when a lot more shit happened in Livonia Avenue, but I had the narcotic squad banging on my door. Long story short, because this is not what this recording is about, I got arrested. I sat behind the DA and I heard them basically saying that I was the mastermind behind some DURG case. And I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. Never been arrested prior to that. So, um, yeah, I can definitely see how innocent people can get time for doing nothing because these defenders don't give a fuck about what you have to say. It's all about what they want to prove. So they was trying to pin some shit on me that I had nothing to do with, but God was on my side and I was able to get released. I had to do some type of um what's this called? I did some type of program for parenting and stuff like that. The Fortune Society was what they put me in. So I completed that. Then from there, I moved to the Bronx. I was on Third Avenue. I was on Third Avenue, 149th. That was a stop. All I remember is being next to Foreman Mills, or like a few blocks away, literally 20 blocks away to be exactly, because I would have to walk that every day to go to the train. So 20 blocks away, was when I lived at the shelter, and that's when my shit got kicked out and whatever, whatever. Started from there. So I just want to clarify the timeline. So because one moment it's like, okay, I have a daughter in the shelter, and then I have two. So I wanted to clarify the timeline as I'm saying my story. I'm remembering certain things. So again, this is why I warned that my story will be hopscotched. But yeah, you can finish listening from here. Thank you. Had any kind of case. So that was kind of weird to me. But I'm like, okay, it would kind of make sense because we're always arguing. You know what I mean? Like, but whatever. So they ended up checking my room, and they saw that my baby had like a bad bottle on top of the TV, and they was like, look at the bottle, and I'm like, bitch, she ain't drinking it. Like, what the fuck you want? My daughter was laughing. She was, my kids are good. What do you want? So basically, they wanted me to come down, whatever. They want to do an investigation. I informed him of this. They made an appointment where they were going to come back out. He ended up, because I would have to constantly keep cleaning up because he would like to roll his stuff and then leave the guts everywhere. So this one particular day, he knew they were coming out. He he ended up gutting on the side of the bed, right? So when they came and they took pictures. And I'm like, what are you taking a picture of? And then when I went into the office, they showed me the picture that they took, and I'm like, why the fuck would he do that, knowing that we had this case going on, But whatever. I did what I had to do. They ended up closing the case. They didn't find any kind of neglect or nothing like that. So, um, that was that. My health was getting really bad at the time, and he told me to make sure that I didn't die because he wasn't taking care of these kids. So that's when I started getting more on my health, more on my appointments and stuff like that. Like I said, it's such a long story with this one person, but I kind of wanted to show where my mindset was and how me, how my raising was with certain people in society, how it shaped my relationships, right? Um, but the last straw with him was after I gave birth to my son, and I ended up having, well, I've had many miscarriages. Um, I've had maybe three, 3 or 4 miscarriages, and I had 2 stillbirths. And my first stillbirth was with my first son before I had my daughters, and of course, at my appointment, they informed me that I'm sorry, that was the first miscarriage. When it came to my son after I gave birth to him, they had me waiting in the ER, and I was waiting there for a very long time. They were seeing people who had like foot pain and shit like that, and again, my sister was there, and she was going in on them like, what are you doing? Oh no, I'm sorry, I just got that mixed up. That was another miscarriage. Okay, it's I Daniel. Okay, so with I Daniel, okay, I remember now. With I Daniel, I gave birth to him First Avenue, New York Presbyterian, and he was born February 5th. I believe it was February 5th, 2011. Um, but he was a stillborn, and after having him and doing the wrong thing about the whole cremation, I think is another story. But my daughter's father, because man, this is our first child before our daughters came, he ended up taking his box. They give you a memory box when your baby passes away. He ended up taking his box from me, and he said I wasn't getting it back, and he ran from me down the block. At this time, I don't know how I was on blood thinners, and my nose just started pouring down blood, and I'm just crying in the middle of the street like, "Give me my son." So he kept it pushing, whatever the case is. People thought that he hit me, so they called the cops. When the cops came, I said, no, he did not hit me. One thing, I don't care what the situation is. I'm never going to put the blame on someone who didn't do anything, right? I'm always going to speak the truth. So I didn't want him to get in trouble for something he didn't do. So I'm like, no, that he didn't hit me. I don't know why I'm bleeding so much. It just started coming down blood. So, um, yeah. Then after that, we lost our placement because he um he didn't come. I believe he didn't come in or something like that. I don't know how we lost our placement. I know the shelter just called me saying, "Listen, we threw your shit outside, whatever." No warning or nothing. I'm like, why would you do that? Like my daughter said, that's all they had was in there. So, um, yeah. So after that, I went back into my mom, and he was back and forth. Like I said, my mom didn't like him, but he ended up cheating on me again. Throughout the whole relationship, he was cheating on me. But this last person that I knew of, he said that he is dealing with her because she gave him something that I couldn't, which was a son. Okay. Now I've had 2 sons by him, and they both were stillborn. So he threw that in my face where it's like you can't even hold the boy. Um. So I'm like, okay, whatever. He wanted to leave, and of course he wants to tell me sweet nothings. Where it's like, listen, I found somewhere I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to this girl's house, whatever. But we're still gonna be together. I'm just strictly going there to sleep on her couch. So I said, okay, no problem. Yeah, we're together. When he called me and said that he was on the bus and he's on his way there, that's when I told him, listen, we're done. Right? I wanted to make sure he was away from me, so I felt safe enough because he was crazy. I felt safe enough to say we're done. I don't want this for my daughters. I don't want them to be around this. I'll figure out a way to start from scratch. And he didn't take that well, of course, but no, he could do it better because he was away from me. So yeah, that was that relationship. Um, Let me see. Uh, the next relationship that I was in, um, one of them was really short person in a short relationship. I think I was with him for like a month. And this was after I left my daughter's father. I started to work on myself a little more, and I started to give into myself a little more. Not too much though, because like, I was still in the process of it. But I started to understand what I wanted, what I didn't want, and I didn't want to be controlled anymore. I was with my kid's father for 6, 7 years. Yeah, 6 or 7 years, and that entire time, it was horrible for me. I even made him breakfast one day and he took it and slammed on the floor and told me he didn't ask me for that. So, like I said, it was very difficult. It was very hard to get through. But after that relationship, when he left to go be with the other girl, I said I wasn't going to be controlled anymore. So when I met this other person, it was very short lived. I think I was with him for like a month before I said, listen, we're done. Like, this is nothing. He reminded me a lot of my ex. And um, he was very different, right? So um, he would say things like, my kids are very expressive, so I let them be kids. They're like freaking what, 2 and 3 at the time, I believe. And when they were climbing on the slide and stuff, and I'm like, girls, be careful, get down. He's gonna make a comment like, my kids need to be spanked or some shit. First of all, who the fuck are you? Number one, their father doesn't even have that right ever. Like, me and him went toe to toe for even thinking you're gonna pop my child. I don't care if she's your child. Where it's not happening. You don't respect women. You don't respect me. You have the right to touch my child. So he made that comment. I looked at him like, what the fuck you talking about? Um, yeah, so he did, like, he was joking, whatever. But I ended up finding out that he was messing with someone, and he straight up told me after after we were intimate. He told me literally right after. He said, "Listen, I have this type of STD, and yeah, I'm telling you now." So, and my heart sinks, like, what the fuck? But again, I'm like, this is my fault. This is my fault because I trusted him, right? Um, and then he ended up expressing to me that he was still in touch with his ex girlfriend, which will always be his first, and I would never come before her, so I would have to get over it and deal with it. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not. That was done. I got tested. I kept going back and forth to get tested. I was in the clear. I've been in the clear, so I'm like, okay, that was a blessing because that was fucking crazy. And again, I've said to myself, I can never do that to someone, right? Um, so fast forward to my most current relationship that was, it's been over for a very long time now. This person, after everything I've been through, was like the best person that I've ever encountered. Okay. Again, this was years later. Now that I've encountered him, I took some time to myself. I was single for a few years. Um, I've had a couple. Like I said, it's just gonna be a long story, but I'm not gonna make it long. In between the last relationship that I had, that wasn't that long, I started telling myself, listen, start thinking like a man, right? Um, so I had a couple flings and didn't have any attachments to them. But then I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want this life. I don't want to live this life. Um, so I kind of still took the think like a man concept, but without the sex, right? I never liked sex, to be honest. Did not care for it. It was never my thing. Um, yeah, it was never my thing. I always did it for the other person. I never did it for myself. So I always thought it was too overrated for me. I didn't understand what people really thought about it. I personally did not like it. I didn't like it, period. So years later, worked more on myself, whatever the case, was a little celibate, whatever. And I ended up meeting my kid's father, right? The last one. Um, he was someone that I felt was a godsend because besides us connecting online through the phone, when we met in person, it was something I've never felt before. Like the chemistry was just crazy. So I'm like, damn. And again, he reminded me of the letter that I wrote years ago when I was a teenager and I ripped it up. So I'm like, he kind of still had a certain resemblance of my ex, my oldest kid's father. But I'm like, okay, maybe this is what the letter is talking about. But yeah, he was like literally everything. So even when I met him, he just glue. So it was something about him. And we talked for a while, whatever the case is, and he said that he always wanted to make a name for himself. He always wanted to be a legend in the streets, which is how he got in trouble by the law. So I'm like, listen, those that's your past. Your past is your past. You are a great person now. Whatever. Fast forward, long story short, what made me really fall for him was one day we were talking, and my birthday was the next day, and he lived at a distance, right? So he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna come give you a birthday kiss." I'm like, "No, you're not." But he ended up doing it. And that was the first time we shared a kiss together. This person wasn't any better. His approach was just different. And he ended up singing "Happy Birthday" to me. So I was like, "Listen, okay, I was head over heels for this guy." Um, Years later, I've probably known him in total. Probably, I want to say maybe 9 years. I've probably known him 9, 10 years. Um, we just clicked, but then I started to slowly see that um, he was changing a little bit, right? Especially when it came to um, the pregnancy. He made promises like he would be there, blah blah blah, and then he never showed up for anything. Um, he kept doing the hopscotching thing, and I try to be understandable in the beginning, but then it's like as years go on, especially when you have other people like a child involved, certain things is not acceptable anymore. Then I started finding out that he was um I something told me to Google his name, right? Like I'm skipping over some things. Like I said, I'm not trying to make this too long. Something told me to Google his name, and when I Googled his name, he was on a registry with some girl. So when he called me, because he was incarcerated at the time, I mentioned to him, "What is this?" And his cousin was in contact with me because she would relay messages while he was incarcerated. He was on a sex offenders and a baby registry because that was his cousin. I'm like, okay, whatever. We can be cool friends, whatever, whatever. Um, I ended up asking him about what is the registry about, and he was like, "Oh no, it's nothing. Let me call her now. Find out what the hell's happening." She ended up contacting me saying that her child's father put that up as revenge, just to get her upset, which kind of didn't make any sense to me because why would your child's father create a registry? Why would he not try to blast you on social media? Like who the fuck is gonna look on the internet for a registry? That didn't make sense, but I kept my mouth closed, right? I started to learn throughout the years it's necessary to keep your mouth closed with certain things. Since I've always been so good at that, now I started keeping my mouth closed to kind of put pieces together, right? Um, Come to find out, this was not his cousin. This was his child's mother. Okay, they've been together for some time. They do this. Let me see. He just started to change up. He started to change up. Certain things I wasn't gonna deal with. And as even though he was in my life, I was still learning and focusing on myself. At this point, I realized I need to start doing for me. And with him being back and forth, gone for certain months at a time, it was easy for me to work more on me. Um, Meeting him, he held on to some lies where he didn't want to tell me he had kids. For some reason, I asked him why would you lie about that. He said because he didn't know me. Like, what the fuck? What does that even mean? I don't understand what that means. But I started noticing little things that I kind of just kept it back in my head, like collective evidence type shit. But yeah, um, that was that. I'm sure. I just want to finish this up. What ended, what was already over, but what ended it really into what made me realize that he was not even trying to build a friendship. he was more so on some sneaky shit was because not only the whole cousin girlfriend thing, um, and him lying about wanting to be there for certain moments, which he would never was. I found it weird that he was asking me for pictures of our, you know, our child, and when I gave it to him, maybe like a week later, he asked about another picture, and I'm like, I gave you these pictures already. Why are you asking me for it? It's weird. So he said, "Oh, I can't keep it in my phone because she makes me delete it." Why would someone make you delete something you're not dealing with? That doesn't make sense. Why would you want to be around someone who doesn't accept the fact that you have a child? That's weird. And you're supposed to have all this pull and be in control of your life, and want nothing from her. Why does she have so much power over you, right? Let alone me giving birth and then he not showing up after he said he would. When I called him, he does my calls. There was no answer from him the entire time I was in labor. No answer from him. After giving birth, when I tried to call again, a female picked up, which was her. And then he ended up taking the phone from her. So it was a lot of weird shit was happening. So I'm like, I don't need none of this, right? I already been through all that shit in the past. So I don't need none of this. Um, what else happened? Yeah, the icing on the cake was when they bust down my door. Fucking squad came, bust down my door with flashlights and shit, calling my kids out to the living room. I'm trying to find out what the fuck is happening, and this person, you see that right there, bust right through that, ran up the fucking, yeah. You see, as soon as I do that, the fucking flies here. Weird ass. Anyway, um, busted my windows, runs up the fucking escape. Um, After that, while he's locked away, he left his phone. So in my mind, I'm like, he's gonna call. He's gonna ask for his phone. And he's gonna want me to go through his phone. And when he gives me the pen, I'm gonna go through his phone. That's exactly what ended up happening. He ended up calling, asking me if I can get a number out of his phone. I got the pen, and I got the number, and I kept going through his phone after we hung up. Fuck, I'm not gonna stop going through your phone. I started to see some weird shit. Him texting people, him telling people that he's living crazy. I'm starting to see recordings of my house. I'm starting to see pictures of my house. I'm starting to see like shade that he's putting towards my kids. He's making it seem like I'm being neglectful and unfit, even when it came to my dog. He made a video that he deleted because I went to the recently deleted, and he made a video saying that basically he was taking my dog out for a walk, and my dog, I guess, wasn't going on walks. And I'm looking at this shit like, what the fuck? Like, I let you in my house because you said you had nowhere to go. I fed you. I helped you with your laundry. I did a lot for. I gave up my fucking room for you, bro, so you can have somewhere to sleep comfortable. And you're doing this sneak shit. So when he called back and I cursed him the fuck out, he asked me why am I going through his phone? Why would I not go through your phone, you fucking idiot? You gave me the pin. Like, and that right there made me feel like, why would you think you can give me a pin to your phone and I'm not gonna go through it? Like, what kind of woman do you take me for? So, um, the neglect and the mental abuse and everything I went through in my past from school to my first relationship, I started to put myself first, and I was like, I'm not gonna allow anyone to not even try to control me, but I'm not even gonna let anyone think they can manipulate me. I'm not gonna let anyone even come in my space any longer, right? It's literally just me and myself. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot. The craziest rumor that I've ever heard about myself was that my kids were taken from me and placed in a home, and I was on CRACK. Okay, and the person who said it to me wanted to fight me. She was a grown woman, a very, very grown woman. And she always wanted to fight me. I don't know. I had a lot of grown women in my neighborhood wanting to fight me or whatever. I never did anything. I understand. Um, but yeah, I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? I was like, no, bitch. My kids passed away. No one took my kids from me. And when the fuck have you ever seen me on CRACK? The fuck type of stuff is this? Goodbye. Goodbye. No,
No,
why are you coming closer? Goodbye.
let's go get some ice cream.
Go get some ice cream. Goodbye.
Okay.
Close my door. Goodbye. No privacy. Anyway, so yeah, that was a really crazy rumor that I heard about me. The moment I realized I needed to stop surviving and start healing was I would get crazy results from the doctor. Like the doctor was even concerned and said for me to be so young, I believe at the time I was like 20, 24 or something like that, 23. For me to be so young, I had the health of a 90-year-old woman. And I didn't understand why my health was so bad. I would get really, really bad asthma attacks. I had pneumonia twice. Um, I had high blood pressure. I had diabetes. I had a lot. I had arthritis. I had a lot of shit wrong with me. And I'm like, why? Like I didn't even eat crazy for me, and I was I gained a lot of weight, and for me to gain so much weight and to eat the way I did didn't make sense to me, right? So that's when I realized, listen, I don't know what it is, but I really had to start putting myself first before anything. That was still a journey in itself, but that's when I realized that. Also, it was one night where my older girl's father, this is when we was back in the shelter, I found out that he was once again cheating. Um, and he ended up hitting me, right? And when he hit me, he went to sleep. So I sat at the table and it was dark. I love sitting in the dark. It was dark. And I was just going back and forth with myself. I'm like, if I just end him, I would escape this, right? But and another side of me was like, no, because not only do you have kids who would lose out on you, but what would your family do? You know? So at that moment, I just went into my bathroom and I just stared myself in the face. And I always had a very hard time looking myself in the mirror, but I stared myself in the face and I just cried out, like, I want him out of my life. I don't care what happens to him at this point. I don't care. I just need him out of my life. And I cried and I cried and I cried for God to get him out of my life. And that's how things happen with me losing placement, and I lost placement, and I ended up going back to my mom, and he ended up going to that girl. So I had a few moments where I realized I had to start healing and stop surviving. So we are getting to the end. The next question is, after everything I've been through, how have I learned to love myself while still caring for others? Um, I've learned to love myself because after everything that I've been through, everything that I was neglected, everything that was, I became everything that I wanted, right? So the nights that I will cry and I want someone to be there for me, I was that for myself. But I wanted to, when I would look at myself and feel low about myself, I would also look at myself and say, no, look again. You know what I mean? So um, when I just want this time I just wanted to end it, and then I explained to myself how much I have to actually live for, and also when my kids would go to sleep at night. Um, this might sound like a little corny, but this is what I did. When my kids would go to sleep at night, I would just watch them sleep, and I would promise them while they were sleeping that I was going to make sure that life got better for them, right? Because I wanted them to have more. So, like I said, out of all the pain that I went through, I always wanted, I didn't want people to go through the pain that I went through. It wasn't fair, it wasn't okay. Um, I did a lot of things, but I never did anything to people, right? If I made a decision, um, I would make sure that it was a decision that I made and that I was aware of any consequences behind that decision. that I made. And if push come to shove, I would take accountability for that decision. Like when I would take from supermarkets and when I would take from supermarkets, I knew the consequence behind it. I can get caught, I can go to jail, I can do time. They obviously have cameras, so I was ready for that consequence. And I was ready for that punishment. And I also felt that a lot of things I went through in my life was maybe to for some kind of payback. I don't know. I forgot where I left off. I'm sorry, but yeah, like I said, a lot of things that I went through, I felt maybe it was some kind of karma for whatever it was I did. Whatever it was I did. My mom will always say, when karma comes, it's never gonna come the same way you put it out. So I thought that even with something small, I'm trying to remember. I remember it was one time I went to go see a friend. I was in junior high school. I went to go see a friend with another friend. This friend had just gave birth, right? Well, she wasn't a friend. She was more like someone that I knew through my friend. But and for some reason I had the urge to be this badass. So I was walking up the steps and I kind of was a little badass. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I thought I was getting karma back. Cause in school, when I was in junior high school, um, I became a badass. The dean would write me up slips, and I would take the slips and I would rip it up right in front of their face. And I'm not going to no detention. Um, there would be. I was always ready to fight. Oh, I still to this day don't know how to walk in the hills because growing up, even in my early 20s, I always wore sneakers because I was always ready to fight. I didn't know what size jeans I wore because I always wore sweatpants, always ready to fight. So I thought all the negative energy I was putting out there is why I was getting shit back. But like I said, I went to go see a friend with a friend, and I was walk up the stairs and I ended up spitting my gum on someone. And when the person turned around, it was someone that was it was I don't want to say disabled because this person was not disabled, but I guess Down syndrome. Yes, and I that hurt. That hurt. That hurt. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? So when that ended up happening to me with the boy years later spitting on me, I accepted it because I'm like, listen, that's my karma, right? So I was always ready to accept my own shit. But yeah, I didn't want people to go through any pain or anything. So that's why I started to just learn how to love myself, to learn how to grow, to learn how to be compassionate towards other people. Um, Damn, so many things come to my mind right now. Um, when it came to friendships, I don't have friends because um, friends again from the past was people that I could not trust. I had a friend who acted like she couldn't stand the person that I was with, and then they ended up going on dates together behind my back. Um, yeah. Um, this same friend took me to a party one time, and this party was in the Bronx. It was on Jerome Avenue. I remember that because I don't really go to the Bronx, but I was going to the Bronx. I saw Jerome Avenue. I'm like, why is this avenue named after a person? Whatever. So that always stood out to me. Even years later, that's one day I know Jerome Avenue. But it's supposed to be a house party, and we went to this house party, and as we get off the elevator, there's no music. Somehow the music starts playing. So I'm like, okay, whatever. As we go to the apartment, there was nothing there but a bunch of guys, right? It was guys there. And a few of them were in their boxers. So I'm like, what the fuck are we about to do? And they're like, oh, the party's just starting with more people, whatever. No one ever came. Long story short, my friend ended up leaving me. And I ended up pretending to call my mom saying that I had to get home. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta go home. So I left home. I left to go home. Um, I believe I walked away with a drink in my hand. I left to go home. I got a cab, and in the back of the cab, I passed out. But when I passed out, I woke up home. This cab driver was really, really sweet. He made sure I got home safe. So I've encountered a lot of demons in my life, but also encountered a lot of angels in my life. So this is why I always stood for the good, because I was always shown that there's still good in people, right? And I wanted to walk that way. So I'm not even sure if I even answered the question. I think I answered the question. Um, let me see. What passions, dreams, or creative pursuits gives your life purpose today? Well, I used to want to be a fashion designer, and I used to want to be a producer, music producer. So I would write songs for my siblings, and I even gave them a group name, and I would even teach them choreography, right? Sitting with my sister, I would teach her choreography. So I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a producer. I had folders and I had shoe boxes of um, sketches of my clothing line, of my sneaker line. I had bathing suits. I had a wedding dress designed for me. I had um, I had kids' clothes sketched out for me before I had kids, because I wanted to be able to reach out to everybody. And I had a lot of plus size clothes on my line, because again, I want people to feel beautiful. I didn't want to feel left out. So one day I just told myself um, that my exact words were, this is never going to get off paper. And I took everything that I had saved up, including books of songs that I wrote, and I just threw it all. I threw it all down the incinerator. Yeah, I had a lot of business ideas. I wanted to own real estate. I want to do a lot of stuff, right? I'm still going to do it, but it's going to take some time, but I'm still going to do it. Um, yeah, I still think about something that's still right. So that still keeps me going. On to the next question. The message or lessons that I hope my kids, my family, anyone watches takes. I don't care what what you're going through. I don't care what you're going through. Right? We all go through things. And again, even though I'm putting some of my stuff out there, no one knows my entire story. No one knows my entire story. I don't care what you go through. You always do the opposite of what you're receiving, right? Be an example of what you want. If you're hurt, who would you want by your side? You know what I mean? Be that person. If you're feeling misunderstood, who would you want to understand you? Be that person. And it's not just to be it for yourself, but you have to be it for someone else. Because it may seem like, why am I living through this hell? But I promise you that everything that you push through makes your exterior so strong. It's so strong, and you can still operate from love because it's protected now by what you've been through. Okay? It's easy for me to understand people. I don't have to have them in my circle. I don't have to keep them in my energy, but it's easy for me to understand people and to move past certain things now, because I realize I'm just these people have not come face to face with their demon like I did mine. I've come through many demons. Okay, even the devil himself. And a lot of people think that the devil is red and the demons are ugly. No, the demon is the person you're laying next to. The demon is the person you call your best friend. The demon is the person that you're sharing meals with. Okay, that's your demon. And I know it's a lot of these people, they're just embodying their demons. They have not conquered them yet. But underneath, there is someone who wants to be saved. There's someone who would love to operate from love, but they're scared. You know what I mean? It's fear. So that has helped me understand people, and that has helped me accept and get through without holding on to anything, get through certain situations, because I'm like, you haven't even conquered yourself yet. I don't expect nothing from you. You know what I mean? So this is what I want people to understand, is that don't take anything so personal. Just understand that we're all here with our own journey. And there's some things that we have to face that we have not faced yet. So that's what I want my kids and whoever is watching this to take from this video, my story. If my entire life could be summed up in one lesson, what would it be? Um, hold on. I guess it would be that uh, life will test you in ways you never ever imagined, in ways that you feel is unfair. There will be moments when people disappoint you, when your circumstances seem impossible, and when you question everything, you question your own worth. Um, but I've learned that what happens to you doesn't have to determine who you become. Okay. I've experienced heartbreak, loss, setbacks, and seasons where I had to find strength I didn't know I had. There were times I felt like I was simply surviving. Uh, Yet, every challenge taught me something about resilience. It taught me faith. It taught me forgiveness. And the power of choosing love over bitterness. Um, One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about refusing to let the past control your future. Um, your scars may remain, but they become reminders of everything you've overcome rather than everything that tried to break you. Um, I've also learned that caring for others should never come at the cost of abandoning yourself. Real love starts with self respect. When you learn to value yourself, you can love others from a place of wholeness instead of exhaustion. If there's one thing I hope people remember after hearing my story, it's this: no matter where you come from or what you've been through, your past does not have to, your past does not have the final word. Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to choose healing, to choose growth, to choose hope, and to become the person you were always capable of being. My story isn't about everything that happened to me. It's about the woman I chose to become because of it. And if I could find light after some of my darkest days, then I truly believe there's hope for anyone willing to keep going.